A family stood in front of America, smiling like nothing could touch them. The mother sang beside her children. The boys played like a garage band that had somehow wandered into prime time. The little girl made the act look even sweeter. Then the real story started leaking through the cracks. 2 songs went all the way to number 2. One hit sold more than 1 million copies. A television network looked at them and saw the blueprint for the Partridge Family. But the real family did not get the sitcom ending. Their father managed the money, then filed for bankruptcy with $445,000 in debts. One brother was kept out of the band. Another disappeared after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. And while the family was gathered to mourn him, they learned that the oldest brother had died too. The gold records were real. The chart numbers were real. The bankruptcy filing was real. The answering machine message after Katrina was real. What people remembered was the sunshine. What the family carried was something darker. This is the Cowsills' real story. The story of the family band that helped invent a fantasy for television, then spent decades trying to survive what happened behind the smiles. And by the end, the saddest part may not be who died. It may be what America never knew it was watching. Chapter 1. The family before America found them. Before the television smiles. Before the gold records. Before America decided they were the perfect family, there was a house in Newport, Rhode Island, filled with children who could sing. The family name was Cowsill. Their father was William Joseph Bud Cowsill Sr., the man who would become the manager, the decision maker, and the force everyone had to move around. Their mother was Barbara Cowsill, whose warmth on camera later made the public know her as Minnie Mom. Around them were the children who created the sound: Bill, Bob, Barry, John, and later Paul and Susan. This did not begin as some record company invention. It started with brothers trying to sound like the Beatles. Bill played guitar and sang lead. Bob played guitar and organ. Barry played bass. John played drums. They worked school dances, churches, and long sets at Bannister's Wharf in Newport, where they could stand in front of real people and hear what happened when those harmonies landed. At first, that almost sounds sweet. 4 brothers, guitars, a drum kit, and the same British invasion dream that seemed to hit every kid with a radio in the mid-60s. But the Cowsills were not just a band. They were a family, and that changed everything. A normal garage band can fall apart and go home to separate houses. These kids could not. Their rehearsal room and their dinner table belonged to the same world. The man managing the act was also their father, which meant the person deciding what came next was not some record executive they could escape after the show. That is where the shadow enters the story. Once Bud Cowsill saw what the children could become, the music stopped being only music. It became a plan, a business, a family machine. The boys still had the voices, the charm, and the timing, but now every song carried pressure behind it. And one child stood outside that machine. Richard Cowsill, one of the brothers, later became one of the painful pieces of the family story because he was not allowed into the band. While the public would eventually see the Cowsills as one bright singing household, the real family had exclusions before fame even finished arriving. So when America finally met them, it did not see the whole house. It saw the polished part, and that polished part was about to sell beautifully. Chapter 2. The song that sold the smile. The Cowsills had early chances before the big hit arrived. They recorded for smaller labels, then reached Mercury Records after a break connected to the Today Show. As Bob Cowsill later told the story, someone saw them performing at the MK Hotel in Newport and helped bring them to national television. A moment like that can change a young band's life. For the Cowsills, it did, but not overnight. Mercury Records released early material, including Most of All. But the label did not make them stars. They were still waiting for the record that could explain them to the whole country in 3 minutes. Then came The Rain, The Park, and Other Things. The song was written by Artie Kornfeld and Steve Duboff, and the Cowsills recorded it at A&R Studios in New York. By then, the group was moving toward MGM Records, and the family image was coming into focus. This was no longer just a group of brothers chasing the Beatles. It was becoming something no other pop act could quite copy: a mother and her children. That was the hook before anyone had to call it one. Barbara Cowsill joined the record, and her presence changed the public shape of the group. She was not just another voice in the background. She made the Cowsills look safe. She made them look domestic. She made them look like a living room that had somehow learned harmony. Soon, Paul Cowsill and the youngest child, Susan Cowsill, were folded into the act too. Susan was still a little girl, and that made the image even stronger. The audience was not only hearing a record, it was watching a family fantasy form in real time. In September 1967, The Rain, The Park, and Other Things was released, and it exploded. The single reached number 2 on the United States pop chart and sold more than 1 million copies. Think about that for a second. A group of siblings from Rhode Island, led by a mother the public wanted to hug, suddenly had one of the biggest songs in America. The harmonies were bright, the melody floated, and the whole record sounded like a rainy day turning magical because one mysterious girl walked through it. America heard Sunshine. The problem was, sunshine can hide a lot. Behind the sweetness was a family whose career was now moving too fast to belong only to the children. The record industry had found the image. Television saw it. Advertisers saw it. Audiences saw it. A mother and her kids, singing clean pop songs in an era that was getting louder, stranger, and more dangerous by the month. That contrast made them stand out. While rock was growing heavier and youth culture was turning rebellious, the Cowsills offered something softer. They looked like proof that the family could survive the 60s with matching smiles and perfect notes. But the image was already bigger than the people inside it. Chapter 3. Gold Records and the sitcom They Never Got Once. The Rain, The Park, and Other Things hit. The Cowsills were no longer just a family act from Newport. They were a national product, and records, television, advertising, and variety shows all started pulling them toward the center of American pop. The hits kept coming. In 1968, We Can Fly reached number 21. In Need of a Friend followed. And then Indian Lake gave them another top 10 hit. Written by Tony Romeo, the song pushed the family deeper into the bright, catchy pop that radio could not resist. Then came Hair in 1969.
Hair is a fright.
That one is still strange in the best possible way. The Cowsills, the family group America saw as wholesome, took a song from the rock musical Hair,
It's not for life.
a show tied to hippies, rebellion, sex, and the counterculture, and turned it into a massive pop hit. Their version went to number 2 in the United States. Number 2 again. By then, the Cowsills had gold records, television appearances, and a public image most families could never dream of. They appeared on major shows, including The Ed Sullivan Show, The Johnny Cash Show, and The Tonight Show. They had their own television special in 1968. They sang the theme for Love, American Style.
Love, American style.
They even became connected to the American Dairy Association, selling wholesome charm in commercials and print ads. Everything about them looked useful to television, and television noticed. Executives saw the Cowsills and understood the basic idea right away. A mother figure, a house full of musical kids, pop songs, jokes, touring, and family-friendly chaos. The Cowsills were not just inspiring a show, they were the blueprint. That show became the Partridge Family. But here is the cruel part. The real family did not get to become the television family. According to the Cowsills' own account, one major reason was that producers already had an actress in mind to play the mother. The family that made the idea believable suddenly became less useful than the fictional version. So the copy got the sitcom, the real family got pushed back into real life. That is the kind of irony you almost would not write if it were not true. The Cowsills helped inspire one of television's most famous pop families, but the safer, cleaner, easier version became the one millions of viewers lived with week after week. The Partridge Family could reset every episode. The Cowsills could not. Their problems followed them off stage. Their father was real. Their money was real. Their exclusions were real. Their exhaustion was real. Still, from the outside, the machine kept shining. The records sounded happy. The faces looked young. The mother smiled. The children sang. America bought the dream because the dream sounded beautiful. Inside that dream, the cracks were getting harder to ignore. Chapter 4. The father, the money, and the cracks inside the house. The problem with a family band is that success does not stay at the office. For the Cowsills, the manager was not some outside professional who could be fired after a bad tour. The manager was Bud Cowsill, their father. He controlled the bookings, the business, and much of the world around the children. Later family accounts, especially through Family Band, the Cowsills story, described that control as harsh and damaging. That matters because the Cowsills were being sold as comfort. On stage, Barbara Cowsill stood beside her children and made everything look warm. On records, the harmonies sounded clean enough to erase doubt. In interviews and appearances, the family looked like proof that show business could still be innocent. Behind that image, the children were living inside their father's system. The most painful symbol may have been Richard Cowsill. He was one of the siblings, but he was not allowed into the band. America saw a singing family and assumed it was seeing the family. It was not. Someone was already missing from the picture. Then there was the money. The Cowsills had hits. They had gold records. They had television attention, commercials, and a connection to one of the most famous family band ideas in pop culture. From the outside, it looked like the kind of success that should have left them secure. Instead, Bob Cowsill later said the family came out of that period with no money, and he blamed their father's mismanagement. That is a hard sentence to sit with. These were not children playing empty rooms. They had been on national television. They had sent records up the charts. They had watched America turn them into a brand. Yet when the bright years ended, the reward was not safety, it was damage. In 1975, Bud Cowsill filed for bankruptcy, listing $445,000 in debts he said had been accumulated while managing the family. There is the public version, and there is the paperwork. The public version had matching smiles. The paperwork had debt. The public version had a mother and her children singing Sunshine. The private version had a father whose control left scars the family would spend years trying to explain. Bob Cowsill later put the collapse in one brutal line. He said it was not just the end of a business, it was the end of a family. That is the wound of the Cowsills. Not that fame ended. Fame ends for almost everyone. The wound is that the thing that made them famous also helped pull the family apart. The songs required togetherness. The image sold togetherness. The public loved them because they looked together. Behind the curtain, togetherness was exactly what they were losing. Chapter 5. After the sunshine faded, by the early 70s, the Cowsills were no longer the bright new family act America had discovered in 1967. The pop world had changed. The country had changed. The clean family image that once made them stand out began to feel tied to an earlier moment. The hits slowed, the pressure caught up, and the group eventually disbanded. But when a band is also a family, there is no clean ending. You can stop touring. You can lose the record deal. You can disappear from television. What you cannot do is erase the years when your brothers, your sister, and your mother were all part of the same public dream. So the Cowsills scattered, but music kept pulling them back. In the late 70s, some members regrouped and recorded an album known as Cocaine Drain, produced by Chuck Plotkin. The title alone tells you how far they were from the old milk commercial image. This was not the smiling family brand America had bought. This was what came after the glow burned off. The album did not become some grand comeback. It became part of the strange afterlife of the band, one more sign that the Cowsills were still trying to make music after the industry had moved on from their original story. Then came the 90s. Bob, Paul, John, and Susan Cowsill regrouped and performed new material written by Bob and Mary Jo Cowsill. By then, they were no longer children inside their father's machine. They were adults carrying history, grief, anger, and memory into the same harmonies that had once made them famous. That is the bittersweet part. The music had been used to package them, but it was still theirs. It had caused pain, but it had not stopped being a language they understood. Bill Cowsill, the oldest brother, followed his own road. He moved to Canada and built a respected life in music beyond the family act, working in alt-country circles with Blue Northern, the Blue Shadows, and the Codependents. For people who knew that scene, Bill was not just the guy from the old family band. He was a serious singer, a writer, and a musician with another chapter. His life was also marked by illness. He dealt with severe health problems, including Cushing's syndrome, osteoporosis, complications from back surgery, broken hips, and emphysema. The bright young lead singer from the 60s had become a man fighting his own body while still holding on to music. That is what makes the later Cowsills story so heavy. They did not simply vanish after the hits. They kept trying. They kept singing. They kept returning to the one thing that had both lifted them and hurt them. The sunshine faded. The need to sing did not. Chapter 6. Katrina, Two Brothers, and the family story that would not stay hidden. In 2005, the Cowsills story took a turn so cruel it almost sounds invented. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans on August 29, 2005. Susan Cowsill was living in the area, and she survived, but she lost her home and most of her belongings. That alone would have been enough loss for one family. Then Barry Cowsill disappeared. Barry, the brother who had played bass in the original band, was also in New Orleans. After the storm, he left messages on Susan's answering machine. He said he did not know how to get out except to wait for a bus. Then the messages stopped. For months, the family did not have the answer. That kind of waiting is its own punishment. Every day becomes a question. Every phone call could be news. Every silence feels like another door closing. On December 28, 2005, Barry's body was found at the Chart Street Wharf in New Orleans. He was later identified through dental records. Early reports said the official cause had not yet been determined, but was believed to be related to Katrina. Later accounts described his death as drowning connected to the flooding. Barry was 51. The boy who had once stood on stage with his brothers, playing bass inside a family dream, had died in one of the worst American disasters of the century. Then came the second blow. While the family was gathered for Barry's memorial, they learned that Bill Cowsill had died too. Bill, the oldest brother, the lead singer, the one who helped start the whole thing, died on February 18, 2006, after years of serious health problems. Two brothers, one memorial, one family already carrying decades of damage. This is where the Cowsills story stops being a simple rise and fall tale. It becomes something harder. A family once used to sell innocence ended up with a history full of loss, debt, exclusion, illness, and grief. Yet the story did not stay buried. In 2011, family band The Cowsills Story brought the darker truth back into view. In 2022, the surviving Cowsills released Rhythm of the World, their first studio album in decades. One song, Katrina, returned directly to what happened to Barry. They were also honored by the Rhode Island Music Hall of Fame, and surviving members continued performing, including on the Happy Together tour. That does not erase what happened, but it changes the ending, because the Cowsills were never just the inspiration for the Partridge Family. They were not just the kids behind The Rain, The Park, and Other Things, or the family that turned Hair into a #2 hit. They were real people trapped inside a fantasy America wanted to believe. And somehow, after all of it, some of them were still singing. The saddest thing about the Cowsills is not that the hits stopped. Hits always stop. The saddest thing is that America thought it was watching a perfect family, when the real family was fighting battles the audience could not see. The smiles were real. The harmonies were real. The success was real. But so were the debts, the control, the brother left outside, the storm, the answering machine messages, and the memorial that became another goodbye. They helped inspire the Partridge Family, but their own story could never reset after 30 minutes. And maybe that is why their music still feels strange now. It sounds bright, almost innocent, but once you know what was behind it, the sunshine changes. You do not just hear a family singing, you hear a family trying to survive.